Hello everyone, today I'll be walking you through the features in MDT user-driven installation which support deploying software to your machine during an OS deployment. We will walk you through setting up packages and programs as well as app model apps. As part of the process, we will be discussing the criteria by which packages and applications are allowed to be added to the software page of the wizard, walking you through application groups, and talking you through the various settings which are available for software items on the software page. Additionally, we will be walking you through the application discovery pre-flight to show you how you can detect which applications are installed on your old OS, even if on a different PC, and have those applications automatically selected for installation during the imaging process on your existing or new PC. Let's get started by opening up a configuration file, and then double-clicking on the application page type called Install Programs. It is important to first note that the software items added to this page are kept in a separate file than the rest of the configuration. We have already added a few items to this page which will be used during this demo. But let's first walk through how you make a connection to your Configuration Manager site server, which you will have to do prior to adding in any software items. As is also the case with the volume page, the Configuration Manager ribbon item becomes available when selecting the application page. I will then select the Configuration Manager ribbon item to open up the dialog. I have already made a connection to my site server, but when opening the application page for the first time, you will need to enter in a site server name and then select Validate Site to verify the site is valid. Once validated, the site code and site server version will be displayed. If the site you are connecting to is a 2012 site server, you will need to enter in an application collection which you have deployed your applications to. To see more information about why a collection is required, look for the User-Centric App Installer topic in the documentation provided with the MDT Toolkit. Now that we've covered making a connection to a Configuration Manager site server, let's walk through adding in groups to the page. Let's do this by first selecting the Toolkit group on the page and then selecting Add Software Group from the new ribbon items which display. We will then enter in MDT as the name and then select Toolkits from the drop-down labeled Nest Under. Then we will select OK. Now let's walk through adding in a couple of software items. We will first start by adding in a package program to this page. Let's do this by selecting the General Software Group, and then selecting Add Software to Group under the Add ribbon item. From here, you can either select the radio button in order to add in a package or program available in both Configuration Manager 2007 and 2012, or Application, which is available only in System Center 2012 Configuration Manager. Let's select the option to add in a package program and then select Next. As packages could contain either 32-bit or 64-bit installation files or both, this next screen supports these scenarios by allowing you to search for a package containing either 32-bit or 64-bit installation files, and also allowing you to select the program or programs you would like to run for each of these scenarios. Let's click on the Select button under Search for 32-bit programs. This screen will allow you to either select the search dialog or enter in a name of a package or a portion of the name in order to filter the search. As I don't have many packages, I will just select Search. You should see that there are a few items which are returned, several of which are grayed out and won't be allowed to be added to the application page. In order to see why these packages are grayed out in the list, you can hover over the information icon to see a related tooltip. In this case, these packages don't contain any programs. Let's go ahead and select .NET Framework and then select OK. This will bring you back to the screen asking if you would like to search for a 32-bit or 64-bit package and program. From here, I will select .NET 3.5 Installer as the program for the package which I just selected. I could then select the Use the Same Package/Program for 64-bit option checkbox, or click on the Select button in order to search for a package containing the 64-bit installation bits. As this package and program works for both 32-bit and 64-bit, I will click on the checkbox and then select Finish to add the item to the list. Let's also walk through removing an item. As we don't want to make the sample application available, we will go ahead and remove it from the list of software items by selecting it and then selecting Remove Item. We will then select Yes on the dialog which is displayed. Now let's walk through adding in a 2012 app model application. Let's do this by first selecting the group that we would like to add the application to. In this case, let's select our newly added MDT group. We will then select Add Software to Group from the Add Ribbon item or right-click menu. We will then select the radio button for adding in applications and click on the Select button to search for applications. On the next screen, I will enter in deployment in the Search Options field in order to filter the list of return results. We'll then click on the Search button in order to search our applications. Because the only application which contains the word deployment in it is the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, it is the only application which is returned in the list. We will then select the MDT 2012 application and then select OK. We could change the display name field from what it is automatically filled in with, but we will leave it as is and then select Finish, which will add in our Microsoft Deployment Toolkit software item. You will note there are two different icons for the various software items available from the list. One is used for package and programs, while the other is used for app model apps. These different icons are only shown to the IT Pro during design time. There are no distinctions between a package and application to the end user at runtime. Now that we've added in our applications, let's walk through the additional settings that are available for software items. Each software item has a Summary tab, Dependencies tab, Mappings tab, and a Delivery Rules tab. It is important to note that dependencies and mappings cannot be set across software types. In other words, dependencies and mappings can only be set between a package and another package, or an application and another application, not between a package and an application. When you select a software item, you will notice that the Summary tab is displayed, showing you a bit of information about the selected software item, including the software item's type. The Dependencies tab allows you to set up either require or exclusion rules. These are not to be confused with the dependencies available in System Center 2012 Configuration Manager's application model. These simply allow you to control the behavior of how the software items interact with one another at runtime based on the require and exclusion rules added. Let's walk through adding in some dependencies. Let's first start by adding in a require rule between the SharePoint Administrator's Toolkit and .NET Framework. Not that the SharePoint Toolkit requires .NET, but we are just using this as an example of how to set up rules. We'll first select the SharePoint Toolkit and then select the Dependencies tab. From here, we will select the plus sign. We can then filter the search by typing in a name or select Search to return all software items which are the same type. Let's select Search and then select the .NET Framework item which is returned. We will then change the dependency type to Require and then select OK. This ensures that if the SharePoint Toolkit software item gets selected, the .NET Framework item will get selected as well. Additionally, this will ensure that the variables used for installing these packages get set in the appropriate order. Now let's walk through adding in an exclusion rule. Exclusion rules allow you to ensure that if two items exclude each other, only one of these items will get selected for installation. Say, for example, you didn't want both the Configuration Manager 2007 and 2012 toolkits to be installed during a deployment. You can simply select one of these toolkits, I'll select 2012, and then select the plus sign to add in a dependency. Then search to return a list of all the applications which have been added to the software page. I will then select the Configuration Manager 2007 toolkit. leave the dependency rules set to exclude, and then select OK. Now let's walk through mappings. Mappings work in conjunction with the Application Discovery Preflight in order to search the software installed on a machine and select software items which are found to be matching based on those defined rules. Mapping rules can be defined as either a configuration manager mapping or a product ID mapping. I have already set up a few mappings, but let's walk through adding in one of each of these mapping types on the existing software items. Let's add in a configuration manager mapping for the SharePoint software item. Let's do this by selecting the SharePoint software item, then selecting the Mappings tab, and then selecting the plus sign with the CM on it. We will then click on the Select button, and then Search. We will then select SharePoint Administration Toolkit from the list, and then select OK. We will then leave the available programs as is and select OK to add in the mapping. Now let's add in a PID mapping for the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. We will do this by selecting the MDT software item and then selecting the button labeled plus with PID on it. From the dialog that is displayed, I will enter in MDT PID as the name for the PID mapping. I will then copy and paste the product ID for the MDT 2012 toolkit. I will then select OK to add in the mapping. It is also important to note that if you want Application Discovery to find older versions of your software, you will want to add in multiple mappings, one for each version. For example, when I select the Configuration Manager 2012 toolkit, you can see that I have added in a mapping for the 2007 toolkit as well as the 2012 toolkit. This ensures if either version is found to be installed that the 2012 software item will be default selected for installation in the software list. You can also add in delivery rules, which allow you to filter software items from the list for those items which a query returns false, or leave the software item in the list for those items which a query is found to be true. Now let's walk through the Application Discovery Preflight by opening up the Deployment Readiness page and then editing the App Discovery Preflight. The App Discovery Preflight reads in the .app file specified on the Read Configuration File field in order to process the mappings and delivery rules, and then writes out an output file with the results to the location specified in the Write Configuration File field. Additionally, a log, a graphic, and the exit codes can be specified from this dialog. It is important to note while in preview mode that Application Discovery will substitute the log path variable for the temp directory of the user running the wizard. As such, if you want to see which matches are found when running preview mode, you will need to make available a .app file matching the name that Application Discovery Preflight is looking for and which contains the mapping rules in your temp directory. We will do this by first closing the App Discovery dialog and then selecting Save to save the configuration file. I have saved the config file to my own temp directory with the same name as the Application Discovery Preflight is looking for. Now let's run the wizard and take a look at our software items. I have repurposed one of the replace stages to only run the Deployment Readiness page containing the Application Discovery Preflight and the application page and removed all other pages. I will select Preview on the stage containing these pages and allow the wizard to run. Notice that App Discovery has found the .app file I have copied to my temp directory and has run successfully. I will now select Next to view the application page. Notice that there are several items which are selected, but when we added in the items from the designer, there were no items which were default selected. These are the matching items which the Application Discovery Preflight has found. As you can see in Start, All Programs, we have the Configuration Manager 2007 toolkit installed. As we set up a mapping for the Configuration Manager 2007 and 2012 toolkits on the 2012 Configuration Manager toolkit software item, it was default selected. Additionally, note that the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit was found to be installed and default selected based off of its mapping. And finally, the SharePoint Admin Toolkit was found to be installed and default selected based off of the Configuration Manager mapping we added in. Additionally, because the SharePoint Toolkit was default selected for installation and a require rule was set up for .NET Framework, it was also default selected. Now let's look at the results of the dependencies we set up. If we unselect .NET Framework, notice the dialog which is displayed asking if we like to unselect SharePoint as it depends on this app. Let's say yes. Notice that both apps are now unselected. Now let's select the Configuration Manager 2007 Toolkit item. Notice the dialog which asks if we'd like to unselect the Configuration Manager 2012 Toolkit, as there is an exclusion rule set up between these two. Let's select No in order to leave it as is. This concludes our video of UDI's application page. I hope that you have a better understanding of how to set up and configure software items as well as a better understanding of the application discovery pre-flight. Thank you.